All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here with this week's speaker, and we are blessed to once again hear from Uri Kaufman, who joined us 2 years ago and gave a very memorable speech. And since then, I believe you've come out with your second book, if I'm not mistaken. And we very much look forward to having you this Shabbos. So welcome.
Thank you. Great to be back.
So, in anticipation of this speech, which is entitled "Why Serious People Tell is it lies against Israel,"
You bet. Lies. Let's go.
lies. So, give us some idea. Who are you? What's your expertise on the topic, and give us some sneak peeks about what you are going to address.
I've written two books about Israel, as you just mentioned. One was a history of the Yom Kippur War. It actually came out right before the October 7th attack. Book actually did quite well. More recently, I was horrified, frankly, by what I was seeing in media and among, frankly, serious people about the things they were saying about Israel. If you want just a more egregious example, most recently, Nicholas Kristof wrote in his column that Israel is training dogs to rape Palestinians, which is not just inaccurate, it is hilariously inaccurate. And all he would have had to do was just go on Google and, it would have told him, you don't even need AI for this, that this is simply biologically impossible to do. It made it through the supposedly vaunted fact-checking apparatus of the New York Times, an editor who must be a really dim bulb. And, Nick Kristof, say what you want. He's a two-time Pulitzer Prize winner. He's not a dumb guy, but yet somehow he wrote something that ridiculous. And the editor of the New York Times opinion page, who's got to be one of the most senior people, not just in the New York Times, but in journalism, period, let it through. And that is the power of bias. And that's really what I plan on talking about, how it is that just straight up bias is allowing people who are otherwise smart, otherwise serious, to say things that are just utterly nonsensical.
Wow, wow, and I understand this is not your occupation, right? By occupation, you're involved in real estate development.
You don't see the
So
connection between the Yom Kippur War and building self-storage facility? I don't understand.
a very loose connection.
Well, we all have our hobbies. Uh, you know, it's a good question. But look, what I often tell people is, one involves, a lot of low blows and a lot of people who constantly break the law and a lot of people who do crazy things, and the other involves the Middle East. It's kind of like that. No, I guess I'd like to say is we all have our hobbies. But just to get back on topic, here's another example. Wendy Sherman, who was the number four in the Obama State Department. So she was a senior policymaker. She was actually the number two in the Biden administration State Department, right under Anthony Blinken. She's the one in the Obama administration, to go back then, who negotiated the Iran deal. She was lead negotiator. So she recently said that Israel commit genocide. Now, stop and think about it for a moment. When we went to war against Islamic State under Barack Obama, when Wendy Sherman was that senior person in the State Department, we didn't supply any humanitarian assistance whatsoever. We starved people to death. This is documented. We never supplied any food, any water, any medicine, anything. Netanyahu supplied literally millions of tons of food. I just saw a statistic, actually almost 2 million tons of food to Gaza just since the ceasefire, and millions of tons before. And she says that's genocide. Now, when she said this, she's in effect incriminating herself, because if supplying millions of tons of food is genocide, well, starving people, that's got to be genocide, right? And it doesn't even occur to her. Literally, there isn't even a contradiction in her own mind. Obama starves people legal. Netanyahu supplies millions of tons of food, genocide. And she literally doesn't even see a contradiction between the two. And I could say the same for Ben Rhodes. He wrote a long op-ed in the New York Times. It was actually 1,000 words, took up a whole page on the Sunday op-ed section. And he didn't use the G word. He didn't say genocide, but he did say Israel was committing all these violations of international. He was essentially incriminating himself. I'll give you another example. Under Obama, when we fought Islamic State, F-16 fighter jets under Obama's command just blew up the main hospital in Mosul. It's called the Salem Hospital. And if you like, you can go online. The Associated Press took a picture of it. It was nothing but a smoking wreck. We bombed another hospital under Obama deliberately in Fallujah. Now, these things are legal under international law. Article 19 of the Geneva Convention says, black on white, that if a hospital is used for military purposes, you can bomb it. And he did so. And I'm not criticizing him. I supported it too. This is how wars are fought. But how can it be that we bomb a hospital and it's legal, and Netanyahu gave warning, gave up the element of surprise, sent in ground troops, fought running gun battles through the Shifa hospital, for example, in Gaza. The Israelis say they didn't cause one civilian casualty. The physical plant of the hospital was preserved. Genocide. Okay, how can this be? And again, Ben Rhodes, it's like he literally doesn't even see a contradiction between the two. Obama bombs
So,
a hospital legal. Netanyahu sends in ground troops. Violation of international. What's going on here? That's what
so
we're
in your
talking
speech,
about.
do you attempt to you do you have an approach? Do you have one approach, multiple approaches, or does it is it end b'tzarachian?
No, no, no. I have a very solid approach. I have the approach. It's called
The
cognitive dissonance. When people have deeply held beliefs and then facts appear to change the beliefs, people change the facts. They don't change the beliefs. This is what the Rambam was screaming about when he wrote Moreh Nevuchim, the guide to the perplexed. It was this phenomenon. He said, writing in the 1100s, the world is more than whatever it was then, 5,000 years old, and we have to understand Sefer Bereshis as an allegory. Now, this was not well received in the 1100s. There was a Rav Shlomo of Montpellier who actually organized the book burning. Now, it's true that after the Rambam was nifter, he pleaded for forgiveness and he retracted what he said. But the point is, people have deeply held beliefs and they don't want to change. They don't want to hear otherwise. The Rambam said, when the pshat is contradicted by the facts, we change the pshat, we don't change the facts. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi said the exact same thing in the Gemara. It's Gemara in Pesachim, Tzadik Dalet Amid Beis. So where is the bias coming from? The best way to understand the bias in this case is to engage in a thought experiment. Let us assume every single fact of the October 7 attack happened exactly the way it did. So quick recap, 1,200 people butchered to death, murdered in the most unspeakable ways, many, many women raped, 250 hostages. All of the opinion polling showed universal support for this among the Palestinians. Palestinians regularly refer to Jews as apes and pigs. If you don't believe me, go on Google, type in Jews, apes, and pigs, or Palestine, apes, and pigs. One more fact, the Biden administration gave $1 billion of aid, not to Hamas, to Gaza, to what they would say the innocent civilians. Okay, let's assume every one of those facts is true. Let's just change one fact. Let's assume the attackers were not Palestinians. Let's assume they were white supremacists. And let's assume they murdered 1,200 black people and raped black women. Okay, do you really think Biden would have given $1 billion of aid to the innocent civilians, the innocent white supremacists who say that blacks are apes and pigs? It never would have happened. Of course he wouldn't. I could say the same thing for the Iran deal. Okay, again, let's assume every fact of the Iran deal happened exactly the way it did. Let's just change one fact. Instead of crazy Ayatollahs who say Jews are apes and pigs. By the way, the reason they say that is the verse in the Quran that says it, which they take literally. Let's assume it was white supremacists who say that blacks are apes and pigs, and they're going to kill all the black people, and they got a clock ticking in downtown Tehran when they're going to kill all the black people. Do you really think Obama would have signed in Iran deal with that regime, that they get to keep the first generation centrifuges, they get to continue the research, they get to make missiles, and they get $100 billion to fund insurgencies killing black people because blacks are apes and pigs. And wait, we're not done. At the end of the 15-year period, it all sunsets. They get back all their enriched uranium, and then the experts say the breakout period is maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. It never would have happened. So what do we have here? We have a classic case of cognitive dissonance. You have people who define themselves by their revulsion of racism, and suddenly you have this high-profile conflict. I can say highest profile, which pits Jews, a white group of privilege, as they see it, against Palestinians, a people of color. So you got the people of color in one corner and the white group of privilege in the other. They're backing the people of color. The problem is the facts don't even remotely justify it. So they change the facts to fit the narrative. And that is why the New York Times regularly says things about Israel that are patently false, that are lies. They are not true. I will give examples when I come on Shabbos. That is why regularly Obama, right after the October 7 attack, what did he tweet? He tweeted, we have to face facts. There's unclean hands on both sides. Whoa. Why the moral equivalence? He said why. Because as he put it, there was caused by the quote unbearable occupation. There was just one problem. There was no occupation. They'd withdrawn 18 years before, but he doesn't like those facts. So he has other facts. That's what's going on here. That's what I'm going to talk
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We look forward to all the additional examples, even though I think the central thesis is there's a lot of
about.
truth there. And we're looking forward to Shabbos. Thank you so much for joining us again. A repeat
Thank you.
customer means that we treated you well, hopefully, last time.
Yes, you most certainly did.
And we're very grateful for you coming out again. And thank you very much. We'll see you on Shabbos.
All right, looking forward. Thank you very much.